This evening, first, a second look, a new twist. A second autopsy on the body of 11-year-old Adriana Young in the U.S. confirms no trauma or sexual assault, but a leading pathologist calls the circumstances of her death highly suspicious. Will there be justice for Adriana? Plus, terror claims and viral outrage. A local nurse and a second suspect are out on bail tonight after being charged with inciting terrorism by spreading false claims about Adriana's autopsy. What do the police and pathologists say really happened? Also, political fireworks. PPPC General Secretary Bharrat Jagdeo sidesteps questions about internal polling on Azruddin Mohamed's surprise political bid. Why he says Mohamed's campaign won't dent the party support. Meanwhile, a record-breaking rush. The University of Guyana's new tuition-free policy sparks a flood of applications, so many that they had to close the portal early. When will it reopen and which programs are still available? And internationally, U.S. universities are putting the squeeze on international students, including those from India. What's behind the crackdown and where will students go next? Stay tuned, these stories and more tonight on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for May 30th, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, a second autopsy has been completed on the body of 11-year-old Adriana Young, with Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Carol Terry of the Gwinnett County Medical Examiner's Office at Morgan, Atlanta, Georgia, reaffirming the initial findings of no trauma, sexual assault, or foul play. However, Dr. Terry has described the circumstances surrounding Adriana's death as highly suspicious and is calling for a thorough investigation. She emphasized that she is not ready to conclude drowning as the cause of death and would require further information, including results from the first autopsy, before making a final determination.
At this point in time, I would not come to that conclusion. I think that there's a lot of information that needs to be gained, a lot of investigation that needs to be done. Drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion, and by that, it means that you have to exclude other potential causes of death. And oftentimes, when a body is found in water, the assumption is that the person has drowned. There is nothing at autopsy that is diagnostic of drowning. So again, that's what I mean by saying drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion. And in this case, what I have been told regarding the circumstances are so suspicious that I really think that there needs to be a very thorough investigation. And I would want to know the results of, say, toxicologic testing or drug testing from the first examination, as well as any additional testing that was done in accordance with the first autopsy.
The first autopsy, conducted in Guyana by 3 experienced forensic pathologists, concluded Young died by drowning. Toxicology tests reveal no drugs or signs of assault. However, Young's family, dissatisfied with the initial findings, arranged for her body to be flown to the U.S. for a second opinion. Dr. Terry, who performed the second autopsy, described her work as quality control and noted that her examination was compromised by decomposition and embalming.
The examination that I had the opportunity to do is compromised at this point because, again, it's a second autopsy. So we have issues of artifacts that are introduced by the first autopsy. We've got decomposition that has taken place, and we've got embalming that has occurred. Now, so that introduces a lot of artifact to the body, and it compromises the examination somewhat. But this diagnosis and this investigation doesn't hinge just on the autopsy. It primarily hinges on the investigation of the death or the investigation of any potential crime that occurred in association with this child's disappearance.
Dr. Terry acknowledged that the first autopsy was technically thorough, but was hesitant to confirm drowning as the cause of death. She emphasized that drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion, and she would like to see the results of the toxicology report of the first autopsy.
What next for me is I will generate my report. I will look at slides from the tissue, under the microscope. These I don't think are going to be, helpful in propagating or furthering the investigation. For me, I would be more concerned about the results of the first examination and any testing that occurred in accordance with that first examination. Because, as I said, based on my essentially doing quality control checking in the second autopsy, I think the first examination, at least technically from what I could see in association with doing the second autopsy, was done very competently and thoroughly, and I would want to see what the results are.
Adriana's body was discovered on April 24, 2025 in a hotel pool in Tushin on the east bank of Essequibo, a day after she was reported missing. The case has sparked national outrage and protests in Guyana, particularly after it was revealed that initial police reports, which claimed video evidence showed the girl leaving the hotel in a car, were false. Despite the pathologist's findings and an independent investigation by a retired Canadian detective, the family's lawyer, Dr. Dexter Todd, insists that the case remains unresolved and demands further investigation. The Guyana Police Force has maintained that there is no evidence of foul play and will submit the completed case file to the Director of Public Prosecutions for guidance. However, the family of Adriana is still hoping for some form of justice in this matter. A nursing assistant has been charged with inciting terrorism for spreading false claims about Adriana Young's autopsy. Dominic Gittins has more on the court appearance and public reaction.
23-year-old nursing assistant Tiana Serena Lewis King was charged and placed on bail for inciting acts of terrorism after allegedly spreading false information about the autopsy of 11-year-old Adriana Young when she appeared at the Georgetown Magistrate Court on Thursday, May 29th. Lewis King appeared before Acting Chief Magistrate Faith McGusty and was granted $350,000 bail. She is scheduled to return to court on June 11th for a disclosure of statements. Lewis King is accused of circulating a voice recording between April 28th and May 5th, falsely claiming she was present during Adriana's post-mortem examination and that the child had been suffocated and sexually molested. The Guyana Police Force and the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, refuted these claims, stating Lewis King was not involved in the case. A second suspect, 34-year-old Romario Kingston, was also charged for his role in disseminating the recording, which went viral on social media, garnering over 40,000 views and sparking public outrage. The first autopsy by 3 international pathologists in Guyana found no evidence of trauma or foul play, ruling Adriana's death a drowning. A second autopsy conducted in the United States confirmed the absence of trauma, but stopped short of confirming drowning as the cause of death, calling the case highly suspicious and recommending further investigation. The police have indicated they will submit the complete case to the Director of Public Prosecutions for guidance. Reporting for Channel 2 Headline News, Dominic Gittins.
Vice President Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo deflected questions about internal PPP-C polls and Azruddin Mohamed's political impact, instead focusing on his effect on the AFC and PNC supporters. Wendell Jeffrey reports.
At the PPPC's weekly press conference held last Thursday at Freedom House, Vice President Bharrat Jagdeo was asked by Channel 2 Headline News to share what their internal polls were uncovering about the effects of Azruddin Mohamed's entrance into the political fray. Vice President and General Secretary of the PPP pivoted and refused to say exactly what their polls were showing, saying rather that the focus should be on the possible effects that Mohamed is having on the AFC and the PNC.
So let me tell you, I don't want to talk. Let the AFC and the APNU talk about themselves. We have a lot of polling done. So we know exactly, and it's detailed.
Mr. Jagdeo then pointed to a poll that he said Mohamed conducted, purporting it to be fake and suggesting that the person who said the poll was conducted had to have a mental challenge.
And we didn't do 80,000 people. You know that's impossible, and that's a fake figure. Anybody who says that got to be certified.
Resorting to the PPPC's internal polling, the former president said,
So we did our polling. Our polling stacks up extremely well. And not going to make any impact on PPP supporters. Not going to make any impact on PPP supporters.
Jagdeo said that the reason Azruddin Mohamed will make no significant inroads among the PPC supporters is because he's now contesting against their party.
When he was doing so-called philanthropy, they thought that, well, he's good with the PPP, so they may have been positively inclined to him. Now that it's different than when you run and contest against the party. So we've done our internal polls. I can assure you we'd win the elections handsomely.
And
We'd win
finally,
the elections handsomely. And because of the work that we've done.
reporting for Channel 2 Headline News, Wendell Jeffrey.
Thanks, Wendell. Stick around when we return. Cuban man remanded for brutal murder of stepdaughter, and UG sees record interest with 20,000 applications.
GCOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2025 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. It is the civic duty and legal responsibility of all Guyanese who meet the eligibility criteria to apply for registration. By doing so, you would be ensuring that you are issued a national identification card and be included in the official list of electors for future elections, providing you meet all eligibility criteria. This registration exercise will end on May 30, 2025. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at another address since you were registered. For more information, contact the GCOM on 2250-27729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Speak clearly with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Our smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. A 40-year-old Cuban national, Whispery Alfonso, was remanded to prison for the murder of his 21-year-old stepdaughter, Dave Lee Morales, when he appeared at the Georgetown Magistrates Court earlier today. Alfonso appeared before Acting Chief Magistrate Faith McGusty, where the indictable charge was read to him. He was not required to plea and will return to court on July 9th. The incident occurred last Friday at the family's apartment on Pike Street, Georgetown, in Kitty. Morales, who arrived in Guyana just a month ago with her mother, Malaysia Rodriguez, younger sister, and the suspect, was found with multiple chop wounds following a violent early morning attack. Despite her severe injuries, she managed to flee the apartment but collapsed and died in the corridor. She was pronounced dead on arrival at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. Her mother also sustained multiple chop wounds and remains hospitalized in critical condition. A tenant who heard screams discovered the horrific scene and later witnessed Alfonso fleeing. The accused later surrendered to police at the Kitty police station, carrying the blood-stained weapon believed to have been used in the attack. Moving on, students' interest in tuition-free education at the University of Guyana has soared, with over 20,000 applications already received. Dominic Gittins has more on the unprecedented demand and what's next.
The University of Guyana has reported an unprecedented surge in student interest, receiving over 20,000 applications within the first month of the government's tuition-free education policy. The response was so overwhelming that UG temporarily closed its application portal on May 16th. However, in response to continued high demand, UG will briefly reopen its portal from Friday, May 30th till midnight on Monday, June 2nd for selected programs that will have capacity. Most competitive programs are already oversubscribed. Applications for the 2025-2026 academic year opened on April 1st, and students who have submitted forms can expect response from mid-June to August. Orientation for new students is set for August 25th. Continuing students will be able to apply from June 16th to August 1st. UG has encouraged this year's CSEC candidates to apply early and request that CXC send results directly to the university for faster processing. Comprehensive information is available on UG's official platforms and media partners. Reporter for Channel 2 Headline News, Dominic Gittins.
Thanks, Dominic. Don't go away after the break. Trump visa pause. Indian students consider other options outside the US. And Suriname's Santoki to host the post-election talk with parties.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl, forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for doing surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
GCOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2025 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. How to apply for registration? You must visit the GCOM registration office that is responsible for your area of residence to apply for registration or name change or correction. You must be in possession of the following source documents as might be relevant: original birth certificate or valid Guyana passport for new registration, original marriage certificate and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by marriage, original deed poll and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by deed poll, original naturalization certificate and original birth certificate or valid passport in the case of naturalization. This registration exercise will end on May 30, 2025. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at another address since you were registered. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. Suriname's President Chandrika Prasad Santoki will meet with all 14 political parties that contested the May 25th elections to discuss forming a coalition government, as no party achieved a 2/3 majority under the new proportional representation system. Unofficial results show the opposition NDP leading with 18 seats. The Suriname Business Forum urged the new government to prioritize entrepreneurship and economic reform. Official election results are still pending. The 2025 Greater Caribbean Summit is underway in Colombia, commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Association of Caribbean States. Leaders and representatives from 25 nations have convened to advance regional integration, tackle the growing threat of climate change, and push for sustainable development across the Caribbean basin. Al Jazeera's Alessandro Rampietti reports.
On the island of Tierra Bomba, the fight against plastic pollution is also a fight for the future of its children. For 15 years, the Amigos del Mar Foundation has worked to tackle two of the island's biggest problems, mounting rubbish and school dropout rates. Through a simple idea, surf lessons in exchange for collecting plastic and staying in school.
Well, it still is very difficult to teach the people that rubbish is a problem. Somehow, and I could agree with them, is that there's other problems like water, like schools, like insecurity, and a lot of other things that is really like a big issue in Tierra Bomba. But I guess when they see that trash has like a money value, so they could buy with the trash or they could change stuff using the trash, then they start to understand that, okay, there's a value on the trash, there's a value on the plastic.
Over the years, the foundation has collected tons of plastic which locals can trade for goods. Discarded sales are repurposed into belt bags by local seamstresses, creating income for single mothers without having to leave the island. Even bottle caps are transformed into fins for the surfboards the kids ride. Tierra Bomba is home to about 11,000 people but lives on the margins of the Colombian state. Just across the water, Cartagena's skyline gleams with luxury towers and hotels, but people here live without water, sewage, or reliable electricity. Despite the challenges, some of the kids have gone on to compete and win in national surf competitions. 13-year-old Laudelis Torres, now back in school, hopes to be next.
I feel happy when I surf because I connect with the sea and so many other things. It's fun. Ever since I joined Amigos del Mar, I feel pride. I want to learn new things, and I have the feeling and the hope that God will help me move my family forward and that I'll become someone great in life.
Pedro is supported by national and international volunteers, but says more help is needed to expand creative recycling and boost environmental education for both locals and tourists.
People often mistake a lack of education for a lack of opportunity. We need to give Tierra Bomba a chance to learn and make tourism here truly sustainable.
From rubbish to resilience, on Tierra Bomba, catching a wave is also about catching a chance at a better life. Alessandro Rampietti, Al Jazeera, Tierra Bomba.
The White House is making it harder for students around the world to study there. Indian students make up a third of the international enrollment in American colleges and universities. They're now considering other options. Al Jazeera's Wilson Desard reports.
When Indian students apply for spots at universities overseas, they're making a big bet on their future. And now many see U.S. schools as too risky, fearing they may not be welcome. Nikaria Sondi helps students craft their applications for schools abroad. She says her clients and their families are anxious.
They are very apprehensive, they're very uncertain, especially even those students who've got their visas really don't want to come out and speak about the success story, and those who are still waiting to get their interviews, parents are apprehensive, they don't know what to do, whether they should wait to get the US visa or look at other options and opportunities in different countries.
The U.S. might not be an option at all, with a pause imposed on new student visa applications. That could mean other countries gain.
It does make me want to apply to other countries more, as it's more certain that I will be able to study there with ease, and I'll be able to find a job much easier in the UK or even Italy for that matter of fact.
Akshara Singh Meal is an artist. She hopes to study at Parsons School of Design in New York City or the Rhode Island School of Design in Providence. They are her first choices, but she's concerned.
With the new policies, and it's all just very unsure, everybody's really scared right now. The thing is that but the US becoming an environment like that doesn't change the fact that the institutes are still some of the greatest in the world, the greatest in the world. So I could only hope for the best when I go there, if I go there.
International students are a source of talent and money for American universities and help cement their global reputations. Every day the U.S. keeps the door shut to foreign students, the more it puts those reputations at risk. Wilson Dysard, Al Jazeera.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is in Singapore to meet defense officials from around the Asia-Pacific at the Shangri-La Dialogue. That's the region's most important defense forum. He's expected to discuss the threat of China to the area, but Beijing has not sent a senior official to the meeting. Al Jazeera's Jessica Washington reports.
On board a U.S. Navy destroyer, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth met American forces in Singapore, joining them for a morning workout and conveying a message from Washington.
Now I gotta go put a tie on, have a lot of meetings. That stuff's important too, as we send the signal to our allies and partners, hey, here in the Indo-Pacific, America's here and we're not going anywhere. We're here to deter adversaries who would seek us harm.
The event brings together defense chiefs, officials and diplomats to discuss the security challenges facing the Asia-Pacific, with both public addresses and closed meetings on the sidelines. For the first time in recent years, no senior officials from China will attend. Instead, Beijing is sending a delegation from the National Defense University. Some observers see Beijing's decision as an indication of reluctance to engage with Washington at a time of heightened tension between the two countries.
I think we are living in the global interconnected world, so what happened in the economic region or economic issues will definitely influence our security relationship with other countries and the other way around.
While China and the US have agreed to temporary reductions in tariffs, tensions again flared when the US announced plans to revoke the visas of Chinese students and target software exports to Chinese technology firms. Issues such as Beijing's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea and Taiwan, as well as the global impact of the war in Ukraine, typically take focus at the Security Forum.
This year, the focus will be on the U.S. defense chief as he articulates the Trump administration's security approach for the Asia-Pacific. The U.S. Department of Defense says Hegseth will discuss the threat that China poses to the region and how Washington is prepared to address it.
In response to the economic turmoil caused by the U.S. tariffs, China has attempted to position itself as a more reliable partner, strengthening trade and investment ties across a range of sectors in several Southeast Asian countries. U.S. officials told media Hegseth will, in the course of this weekend in Singapore, convey that Washington is still the better choice. Jessica Washington, Al Jazeera, Singapore.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Friday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will be off for the weekend, but you can tune in on Monday, 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and do have a wonderful weekend.